You're listening to Theater and College Hoops. I'm Taylor Damble. Alongside me is the Shark. We're brought to you by Dash Radio and the Barn Burner Podcast Network. Go subscribe on whichever device you use. I actually heard Earl Barron subscribed, so you should as well. Check out the website at thebarnburner.com. That's the-barnburner.com, and make sure to follow us on Twitter at CBB Theater. You should also follow me at Taylor Damble to find out where the feed is, and the Shark at the_shark_BB. And I guess you can follow Subi at Subi232 as well, as long as he comes back from his Grand Canyon trip with her right mind. He told us he was going there to find himself. So we'll see how that turns out. But anyway, we're sponsored by Blue Note, artfully crafted small batch bourbon distilled in Memphis and honoring the Memphis Blues. Be noteworthy, Memphis. So, Shark, what's up, man?
Not much. It's kind of weird to be doing this without the father right now. I'm happy he's finding himself out in the canyon. You know, I'm envisioning a good Johnny drama scene for him where he's screaming victory over the cavern beneath him for no reason, because he has no victories going on, but still doing that.
You know, I think we can both agree that Subi is the point guard, the lead guard of this broadcast. But I think that we maybe are like the two combo guards that maybe can come in and run the show together in the times where our lead guard has to sit down, or, you know, maybe he's in foul trouble, maybe he's away due to a family function. I think that could be maybe best describe us at this point right now.
Yeah, I'm running off of just weak Marriott internet in deep Minneapolis. So to the extent that this is supposed to be a tryout for us to take over the show from Sub, I think he might be up to something and making sure that I register about 35% of what you say. So I apologize in advance to the people listening to this show, but if I repeat anything that Taylor said, then, go fuck yourself.
Have you gotten a longer email before than what Subi sent us in terms of how to run this show without him?
Yeah, for probably, Jesus Christ, 15 to 20 years at this point. I've never seen him put that much effort into anything than how to arrange for this show to proceed.
I mean, I've lived with the guy, and I'm 100% sure he put less effort into even like moving or finding a new place to live or any of that than he did into just telling us how to press play on this broadcast. But thorough, I love it. At least he's a thorough guy. Before we get off the Subi topic, one more thing. We've both known the guy for a long time. You've known him for much longer than I have. 1 to 10, what are his outdoor skills? Like rating between one is like grew up in the city, never went outside. 10 is like Grizzly Adams.
Ooh, that's a good one. I can't recall a moment he's ever slept outside and out in the field. And, he's out in the field right now. So, gosh, I know if that man, if he values one thing in this world, it's comfort. So he's going to find a way to make himself comfortable with probably a bevy of blankets, but he's not built for the field, and he's going out there right now. So,
Did he bring a couch with him? Pack in a couch on his back?
No, he's definitely got like a Snuggie of some sort, if anything, a backup Snuggie. That guy loves a good blanket.
Best part is we just had it's been perfect weather in Arizona up until literally today. And we just had a major weather front come through with a ton of rain, thunder, probably snow up there in the Grand Canyon. He might be dead, honestly. The next podcast, it might be an in memoriam type of podcast for Super.
No, that's not good. When you add those elements to it, then he's going to be struggling a little bit because the mental toughness level, that's always been an issue with Subi there. When it comes to this kind of thing.
Right, sure. Gotcha. All right, so let's dive into some basketball. Last time we were on the podcast, we previewed one of the biggest games of the college basketball season thus far, and that was Michigan State and Seton Hall. Seton Hall came away with the loss. Michigan State came away with the win despite Miles Powell's 37 points in a game that he wasn't even expected to play in until like an hour before the game. I thought Miles Powell's injury was like weeks long. And I think that's what we'd all talked about. And then all of a sudden, Miles Powell is warming up and scores 37 points and almost outduels Cassius Winston. Well, he did kind of outduel Cassius Winston. But did that tell you more? We discussed this previously to the game itself, but did that end up telling you more about Michigan State, or did it tell you more about Seton Hall?
So first of all, I would say, Kevin Willard really playing his cards close to his chest there. That's on the eve of what was it, the Detroit Lions, when Matthew Stafford had like 7 broken bones in his back, and like they just kept him practicing all week. And like the whole point of like injury reports, and I know it's not really a thing at the college level, but the whole point of that is to make sure that there's some transparency and you're not forcing the athletes to get out there and play. Granted, it seems like that whatever high ankle sprain that Miles Powell supposedly had, it wasn't really affecting him too much because he was the best player on the court, no doubt about that. And he demonstrated how this Seton Hall team can play with anyone. Now they lost, and you and Subi were chirping me in our group text on Friday night about that loss, but I mean, what do you expect? If anything, that means more to Seton Hall than anything else. They know that they can play with the preseason #1 ranked team in the country when they're at full strength, and they weren't even at full strength because Miles Powell, whether you want to call it a high ankle sprain or not, he was not at an optimum level. Yet he dropped 37 or whatever it was. So I love Seton Hall. I went and tweeted it. I made sure I tweeted this even while Miles Powell was hurt. I did this. I had that tweet. It's on the record. Nobody can come at me now once people start getting on the bandwagon. This is a Final Four team. I mean, I'd like them to have Miles Powell to get there, but I just love the character and the toughness of this team.
So I think I would say it told us more about Seton Hall, but I might be, and I was high on Seton Hall too. I picked them to win the Big East and Miles Powell to win player, or no, I believe I picked Marcus Howard to win the Player of the Year in the Big East. But I mean, it's kind of splitting hairs. Miles Powell is easily, potential All-American, and nobody would deny that. But I think it tells us a lot about Seton Hall in the sense that how reliant they are upon Miles Powell, because down the stretch there, as well as Miles Powell had played, and who knows how much the injury had affected him, dude was clearly gassed at the end of the game. And the last 3 or 4 possessions were literally just Miles Powell dribbling down the court and trying to shoot a contested 3. And I don't know if that's going to be how it continues to go. And they're not going to play a team to the caliber of that Michigan State is, you would imagine, until like the Elite 8 or even the Final 4. But that might be the problem is if with the upper echelon teams that they might play when it comes to the tournament, or even when they play Oregon this week. So that'll be next week, that'll be another telling one. Is Miles Powell going to have to score 37 points a game for them to even be in the game when they're playing the real, I don't want to say the upper echelon teams, but say the top 15 teams in the country?
Yeah, I think the most important thing in college basketball and identifying which teams are going to be able to be successful at the end of the year is how they perform in close games against good defenses. And it's a long way of me saying it doesn't necessarily matter what happens in the first, 38 minutes of a game. If that game is close enough and you're getting a maximum effort from a great defensive team, can you score when you need to be able to score? And if anything, that Seton Hall game demonstrated that they can. Now, granted, it's all because it's Miles Powell, but they can do it. So I forget the exact sequence at the end of the game, but Powell and Kevin Willard was screaming like a maniac on the sidelines to get some fouls called. And he had a good argument on one of them. The final one for Powell, I don't know so much, but you need to be able to execute against teams that are going to be giving you the best foot forward on defense. And I think Seton Hall's there. It's just a matter of getting that path and making sure that they can put themselves in position, because they're going to play defense, no doubt about it. But I think if they can end up on a 4 seed line, they have a good shot.
I think to end up on the 4 seed line, and I won't disagree with you, and where if and that's potentially where they're headed. They've got 2 games coming up in the next less than a month, 3 weeks, that are gonna, a month, let's call it, that are gonna determine whether they're gonna be able to, be a top 4 seed or maybe be stuck on that 4 seed line. They have Oregon, they have Maryland on December 19th. Those two games are probably the big deciders of where they're going to end.
But I mean, that's why I like teams like them in Oregon, because they schedule these games.
Oh, 100%.
They put themselves out there to be tested early on so that they can execute when it matters at the end of the year. I mean, in the alternative, you can play the cookie cutter schedules and just rack up brackets, treat you right when he starts doing his bracketology. But I think they're really, especially for teams that haven't kind of burst through and gotten to that Final Four level yet, this is the way to do it. This is the way to test yourself. And to other teams like Memphis, to their credit, they're doing that as well. I hate on Memphis a lot, but they do that. This is what the good teams should be doing. So whatever happens in those games against Maryland or against Oregon, whatever, it doesn't necessarily matter unless they're getting boat raced and they look like they don't belong on the court with the other team, which I don't expect to happen.
Sure, and I think that we can say the same thing. I mean, we can say the same thing about Michigan or Michigan State and Izzo every year. Their schedule is always brutal, and they always drop a couple of these games like they did in the first game of the year against Kentucky. But there's a legitimate argument for them to still be the number 1 team in the country, despite the fact Kentucky's loss doesn't look awesome now. But going on the road to a team like Seton Hall is as big of a win so far as there maybe has been in college basketball. I know we're still really early, but going on the road and beating a team that has that potential like Seton Hall does, and maybe the best player in the country in Miles Powell. In Vegas, Miles Powell is only like the 6th highest favored player to win National Player of the Year.
Really? You went down when you're out there down to the book and see who they had for the
it's kind of crazy.
Player of the Year right there?
Yeah, right. So it's I would think he'd be higher than that because I think
so would I. I mean,
yeah,
I would that would be a ticket I'd be interested in. Who do they have as 1?
I still has Cassius Winston as 1.
Okay.
I believe they have your boy Nawara ahead of Miles Powell as well. I know that's your guy.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
Big Louisville guy you are, I know. So
yeah, true.
So speaking of one of Louisville's rivals, another issue that one of the major teams in the country is having is Kentucky. Kentucky, as we know, lost to Evansville last week. They got taken down to the wire by Utah Valley last night and still not looking good. Is this just Calipari's kids being kids, or is this kind of a real problem they're going to have? Because in my opinion, I think this is a real issue. We talk about how early in the season it is and how some of these games do and don't matter and what do they matter when it comes to tournament, and there's still a long way to go and all of that. But if you're losing to Evansville and barely beating Utah Valley at home, I don't care what point of the season it is. That's got to show us something, and I don't know if that's is that a talent thing, or is it a continuity of the team? I
think it's an issue for Kentucky. You should not be playing games this close to opponents that inferior. And I think the issue is because they don't have a guy. They don't have a guy that I know that you really, busted your load on night 1 with Maxey there.
Yep, that's all over. I already kicked him out of bed. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, once that load comes out, you can't really put it back in. But I think they're trying to make Higgins the guy, and he just can't score other than bullying his way to the free throw line. And then Richards last night, he's at least emerging as a front court presence, which is what they needed. And we'll see if he has the fortitude to make that leap forward for them. But I don't like their team. Just there's something about them. This is kind of uncharacteristic of Cal coach teams. They do this once they're playing a good team. They don't do this when they're playing a horrible team. So I think he should be concerned. And I don't know who's their next big test.
That's what I was just looking right now. Nothing obvious. Let me see what tournament they're playing in. They have teams like Mount St. Mary's and things like that coming up. They do have Ohio State on the schedule. They do have Louisville on the schedule as well. So they'll get some tests in there. But there was a reason why, and this goes to my point, even though I'm already ready to pull the point back is why I picked Florida to win the SEC. I wish I could retract that statement, but it was more to the point that I think Kentucky was going to drop some games in conference, much like the ones that they dropped to Evansville. But I thought it would be to like, you know, in Alabama or Georgia or Auburn or whatever, like an actual big Power 6 school, not a Utah Valley and an Evansville. And so I think that, you know, in the last couple of years, or maybe all of Calipari's years, we've seen them play close games to some inferior opponents from time to time. But the talent in the last 4 minutes, just like 99% of the time in college basketball, the talent just pulls through in the last 4 minutes, and they kind of go, oh shit, yeah, we got to go. And they flip it on in the last 4 minutes and go on like a 16-4 run and win it. Yeah, they don't have the ability to do that with this team at this point.
Yeah, I just don't know if they have that at this point. What most of their recruiting class was no consensus, you know, lottery pick that they had. I don't know if it's there.
No, and I would agree with that. And at this point, it's not surprising to me if they will continue these struggles through the rest of the season, also into conference play, where they're going to have to play perhaps the new best team in the SEC, your Tennessee Volunteers. I want to give you the floor to wax poetically about perhaps the best team in the SEC, hailing from Knoxville. Don't be shy. Don't be bashful here. They have a good win on their schedule now.
I'm mainly looking at you right now just because I shot you a text saying I'm hearing 1 out of like every 10 words that you said. So there's a part of me that's wondering whether we should keep going right now. Is there a way we can like test and make sure that this is capturing everything, or we can?
Sure. Hold on. Let me see.
Like it might be your connection where it's playing back and nobody can hear a thing. Like we should make this decision now before we do the whole show, and then we can come back and do these 17 minutes that we've done.
All right, hold on.
Do you know anything? If we leave, does it create like a thing?
Hold on, let me see. Let me end the broadcast.
I know. Yeah, I'm fully off script right now. Like this is not the show.
We can run it back. We can figure it out. Hold on, let me end the broadcast real quick.
Because I can't keep this up. I'm like completely